Hi, everybody. Welcome to Successful
Hello.
as Fuck, the show. I'm your host, Raya Gonzalez. I'm here and very, very excited today to be chatting with Genea Barnes. Genea, right? Genea.
Genea.
God, see, I even asked before. See, Genea
You had it
Barnes.
right, but you second guessed yourself and then you were like,
I
ah!
questioned myself. Okay. Genea Barnes. And Genea is like my soul sister from another mister in her messaging and just mission towards loving on the world. But welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
I am so excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you serve people.
Awesome. So I am Genea Barnes, as you guys have figured out by now. And I am a career transition coach. I help people move into careers that are fulfilling for them, that light them up, that make them happy. I help them get out of those situations where they are feeling like they have to be fake and put on the masks and deal with toxic workplace, all of those things. And I do this, a big part of the way I do this is by helping people connect with who they truly are and get rid of the limitations that are keeping them from being their best and fullest and most badass self.
Right? I love that. That's just, I mean, that's really where it is. Even if you're not transitioning in career, you should be reinventing yourself all the time. And so I just love that you do that. And I think in this environment now, there's so many people who have, had a transition either voluntarily or involuntarily. And then they're like, what the hell am I supposed to do with my life? And how do I do it in a way that I'm not selling my soul? And so that's just, um, it's a really, really valuable tool and skill and resource to have is somebody like you who's saying not just let's get you through this transition, but let's do it in a way that you're up leveling, you
Well,
know.
yeah. And I think what has happened to so many people, the pandemic, we were locked down, our coping mechanisms were taken away. It's like you can't go to the bar and drink anymore. You can't spend a bunch of money and go shopping. You can't retail therapy. Well, you can Amazon retail
Right.
therapy. But a lot of the stuff that we used to mitigate the stress and cover up the fact that we were miserable in our jobs and our lives, all that stuff was gone. So you had to sit in your shit. And
Yep.
when you sat in your shit, you started to realize, like, whoa, this is not the life I want, because we had to slow down, right? We couldn't go, 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 go and
Right.
occupy every second of every minute of every time of
Yes. That 100%.
so I think everybody just started to realize, like, hey, I want something. I deserve something
Yes.
more.
Yes. I I that resonates so fully. I think, as an entrepreneur, people think that, we have it so firmly together of what we're doing and the service that we're providing. But as I was sharing in the green room, I'm in this position right now where I am launching this personal brand and I am launching this mission really of reaching out to people and saying you can not just you can be successful, but you are fucking successful. Like right now in this moment, whether you embrace it or not, and especially if you're not embracing it, you are fucking successful. And like there are days where I wake up, and yesterday was a day like that where I thought, what the fuck am I doing? Like literally, what am I doing? Like, am I living authentically? Am I doing what is right for me? And you have this little spark of desire to do something different, to be something different, and it's scary. because you know in your heart that that's where you're supposed to be led, but you can't see what it looks like. And but you have to venture out in that, whatever that is, and just be essentially obedient to your spirit, like just say, like, I am being called in this direction. And that is freaking scary. And I want to hear more about, because you have a show called Be the Wolf. Tell me what does Be the Wolf mean? How did that come to be? And how do you use that as a way to reach people into this scary journey of stepping out into who you're supposed to be?
So Be the Wolf, the podcast, it's a podcast. It's called Be the Wolf, Be Who You Were Born to Be. And it's based off the Yellowstone National Park wolves. And for those of you who don't know, in the early part of the century, they tried to eradicate all the predators from the park to make it safe, right? Very much like we try to do all of these things to make sure we're safe and secure, and make sure everything is okay and we won't be in danger.
Yes.
And what happened over time was the ecosystem collapsed. The rivers spread out, the elk overpopulated, lots of species left. And in that process, everything was out of balance, much like when we're bending and contorting to adhere to other people's standards, we become out of balance. And in the mid 90s, they reintroduced 41 wolves into the park. And over time, the ecosystem balanced out. The rivers, recalibrated, the beavers returned, the elk population balanced out, and the wolves did nothing but be who they were born to be. They didn't run around and go, "Hey, George, do you think I should have that elk for dinner? I don't know. Let's ask Sally." So they just did their true nature. They lived their lives the way they were born and meant to. And it balanced the ecosystem. So it's my belief that the more people we have operating from that place, that we will rebalance our own ecosystem. And I know in the work that I do, what ends up happening internally is that you rebalance your own internal ecosystem. Basically, most of us are running these big pendulum swings from side to side, and it's really hard to get anything done when your goals are what to one side, but you're swinging over here, and then you're like, oh god, I got to balance it over here. So we are staying in balance, but those swings are so wide that we can't focus and move forward. So I kind
Right.
of bring the swings to a smaller place so you can actually take the steps forward instead of ping ponging all over the place to get to this road to nowhere.
Right, exactly. It reminds me of this book I read, and it stuck with me. I need to go back and actually like read it, because it's been god like 15, maybe 10, 15 years, but it's called Off Balance on Purpose.
Mm,
And the premise of the book is we're so worried about what we, like, when we're leaning into something, about what we're leaving behind,
mm,
and like what
mhm.
we're not doing, that we can't celebrate the thing that we're leaning into. And he acknowledges that sometimes we're leaning too far into something, like that pendulum is swinging too rapidly, too wide. But he says, what if we just enjoyed when we're a little off to the right, and enjoyed when we're a little off to the left, and just mitigated that and said, like, my life is going to be swinging back and forth. And instead of letting it swing like this, what if we just knew, like, okay, when I'm over here, this is going to take back burner for a second. And when I'm over here, this is going to take back burner for a second. And it's the concept that really there's no such thing as like perfectly in balance. That
Mm-mm.
really, when we're in balance, it's when we're embracing the fact that we are multifaceted and we have different interests, and we're honoring that. Like, that's okay that we have different sides to what's interesting and good and what we're gifted at. And yes, that means sometimes your family is going to take a back burner, but if you do it in such a way, your family knows and they're like, wow, like, look what you're doing. And then you come back and that takes, your work takes a back burner to your family, and the quality of your time in those different places is so much better because you are able to be in the moment and celebrate that. And instead, in that journey of this perfect still pendulum, we're like, oh crap, I'm way over here. Oh crap, I need to correct. And so I love that you're saying that, like, just keep it in the middle there, because then you can, I mean, really the purpose of what I'm saying too is, like, where are you? And like, what can you celebrate about where you are right now? And maybe you're in a place where it's confusing and you're in transition, or like personally, professionally, all of the above. Maybe you're in a really traumatic transition. And that's not to minimize that either, but are you moving? Are you, that's really it. Are you moving? And if you are, even if it's in the wrong direction, you're moving, like you're learning. And I love that, example of what you're saying, because it's just, are you being who you are supposed to be, you know?
Well, who you're supposed to be, I think it's going to shift and it's going to change. As
100%.
human beings, it is our birthright to grow. And honestly, the brain cannot be happy unless it has a problem to solve. The problem is that we are giving it the worst problems to solve. So we're trying to make other people happy instead of ourselves happy. We're trying to get a whole bunch of money so we don't end up on the street, or all of these things. And that swing, it really, when we get off track from what is true and right for us, is because we're running around trying to put out fires, trying to prevent things. And when we can start to actually learn to trust ourselves and be in alignment with what is true and right for us, it's real easy to see if you're off balance or if something's a good fit for you or not. If you're standing on the top of a seesaw and it's real easy at that place to just, you maybe balance and move a little bit like this. But if you're all the way over to one side and you're trying to create balance, it's a lot easier to find balance if you take little steps rather than trying to run all the way over to the other side and then you swing to that and swing. So those little steps are really important. And over time, when you get finally to that sort of middle place where you can have one foot on either side and just sort of adjust easily, it's real easy to be like, okay, this is not in alignment. This feels contracting versus this feels expansive. And that's a big way I think I use with a lot of my clients. What feels expansive? What feels contractive? Obviously, stepping into the unknown feels a little contractive and scary, but what could it create? It's not about what you're trying to prevent. It's what can you create? So the steps you take will create a much greater impact in your life, a much greater positive impact in your life if you're stepping towards what you can create versus trying to prevent. Because trying to prevent is picking up pieces. It's survival mode. It's trying to prevent whatever bad thing that happened in the past that you might be anxious about. And when you're running from that place, yeah, you're taking action all the time, but you're ping ponging like crazy and you're in survival mode, fight and flight. And so many of my clients, so many strong, powerful, capable people are just ping ponging from one thing they're trying to solve or prevent to another, as opposed to actually stopping, taking a breath, and feeling into what's going to create the more expansive result. What's going to bring that joy and flow and things that open up possibility for you rather than shut down what you're scared of.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you have people do? Like if somebody's listening or watching, what are some of the very first steps, these baby steps that people can take? Because I mean, there are some logistics, right? So there is the inner work of the mindset, which is so, so important. And I would dare say probably the most important step of it. But then logistically, I mean, you can't jump from, working in fast food, which is thank you to everyone who works in fast food, to being like a software engineer. But as you're identifying maybe the qualities of the work that you want to do, what are some of the things that you have your clients do to figure out, what they can do right now, maybe what the next steps are? What are some of those first things that they can do?
I mean, one of the most important things is to get clear on what you want. And it's not specifically about, oh, I want to be a software engineer. If you know that's what you want, great. But you've got to take little steps. We are all, as a society, we are looking for that silver bullet. We are trying to jump ahead to the end. We just want to be happy. Everybody says, I just want to be happy. But hardly anybody can tell me what happiness actually looks like, because for them, in most people's mind, happiness is the way to solve misery. But what does it take to make you happy? So you start by asking a simple question: what is important to you in the context of career, in the context of life? And when you start to understand, like, oh, like for me, it is in the context of life, it's joy, it's abundance, it's integrity, it's connection. It is my number one is growth and expansion. And
Yeah.
so if I've got those things, like you've got to ultimately narrow it down to 3 to 5. If I've got those things, I am successful as fuck. It doesn't
Right.
matter what my job is. If I can learn and grow and help other people learn and grow and create expansion, then I'm happy. If I have connection, I'm happy. If I have abundance, I'm happy. If I get to roll with integrity, I'm happy. And when you look at your job, what's important to you in your job, in your career, it's the same thing. You've got to figure out what are the most important things to you. The problem is people have this stuff going on underneath that they don't even realize, that is throwing a monkey wrench, because we're creating our life exactly based on what's most important. So we consciously are aware of, yes, integrity and abundance and all of these things that sound so great. But what most people don't realize is they've got some hidden stuff going on. And those are things like a need to be right,
Yeah.
a need to fix, a need for acknowledgement. These things, and oftentimes they're based on some crap that happened when you were young. But those things become so important and they create these negative things in your career and in your life. And those are the things that's about preventing, right? I need to fix because maybe I feel uncomfortable when somebody's struggling and it just makes me feel like, oh, like you walk by a homeless person and they ask for change, and it makes a lot of people feel bad about themselves. So they don't want to see it. Or so when you've got hidden things that are important to you in your career or your life that are sort of playing a bigger role, that's the stuff that's creating the stuff that you don't like. Is we can map it out what we want, but we have to be brave enough to like be like, okay, I'm gonna not need to fix this problem at this job. I'm gonna not have to save everybody, because if I do that, I'm gonna slide into creating that stuff that I don't like. And
Yes.
that's the challenge. That's the challenge, is not sliding into those things, those patterns, and unwinding them. That's why I love what I do so much, because we just get rid of them. Poof.
Yeah. I love that. And it's interesting. My sister sent me, I think it's a TED talk, or it was a talk of some sort that talks about actually debunking authenticity, like how some people define authenticity, and they are on this search to be authentic. And because it's like it goes into the fixed mindset of, like, oh, okay, like this is what authenticity is and I have to do that, instead of going into a growth mindset of saying authenticity is going to change daily. Like, this is me being my authentic self, is saying like, today I got up and I'm gonna drink this essential water bottle, and also authentically last week I didn't drink water like all week, because I drank Diet Coke. And like, those are not things that I, like, or, whatever, but that's my truth. And so why not shape your truth as you move through life? Why not have, like, what you're saying is, if your authentic self, or rather your happiness, your core happiness is growth and expansion and learning, that's authenticity. And instead of saying like, I'm going to be, I think there can be a like a radical vulnerability where it's like, I'm going to just talk about the negative things and that's authentic. What about saying, and or the swinging and saying, I'm only going to talk about the good things of my life? And it's just saying like, what is authentic is going to change every day, and that's good. That means you're like moving towards what you like, and then your things that you like and are important to you may change. I'm going into a season of my life where I have two daughters in their 20s and I have a child that's 13 years old. And most of my friends didn't have babies when they were 19 or 20 or whatever. And so most of my friends don't have kids in their 20s. But this is a new like season for me. So it's a very different thing to have tiny itty bitty humans and then to be essentially an empty nester, because my 13-year-old is like, I'm all set, like, I'm good. You can go downstairs. I'm gonna watch a little TV, do a little homework, hang out. And if I feel like talking to you, I'll come downstairs and whatever. And so that's very different than two in diapers and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's life, like, even if you don't have kids, that's just an example. And if you don't allow yourself to roll with that, it's going to be really hard to move forward, because I see people who identify so much with a role in their life, and that's what makes them happy. That's the deepest, innermost thing. And while that is, being a mom is like humongous for me. I mean, that has been the greatest accomplishment of my adult life, is the fact that I have sometimes in a miraculous and beautiful way, and sometimes in a not so beautiful way, been this role. That is not who I am. That is not what should make me happy, because that is putting too much not power, but like too much responsibility on someone else to be that for me. And I'm not going to be around for them forever, and they're not going to be in my life, in my immediate bubble, forever. And so you have to find that expanding and contraction and just like be okay with sit in the shit. You know what I mean? Like, because a lot of beautiful stuff comes out of manure, people like, like we really truly, if you look at the ecosystem of life specifically, you have to fertilize these things that are growing. And so these experiences can really give life to something truly beautiful if we allow it to. Or you could just sit in a pile of manure. Like, that's your choice. You know what I mean? Like, so I love that sentiment of just really embracing what is truly you, what brings you joy in the deepest sense as you, as a person, not as a role that you play in other lives or in your career.
Well, and it's interesting too, this is, I think, a really common thing for people as your kids grow up. And especially as a woman, there's this big role, this identity as a mom that so many people have stepped into. And societally, that was what your role as a woman was supposed to be. And it's only, the last few generations where your role as a woman gets to be something else. And you can see how, with your role and your purpose in your life was to have kids, raise kids, then of course you're going to be like, when's there going to be grandbabies, please? But what I hear for you, because you're stepping into a new shift, so now the purpose of your career, your businesses moving forward isn't so much about providing for them, because that role is sort of on its way out, and you get to step into something that's more fulfilling for your spirit, your internal compass. And that's so much what being the wolf is about. It's the authenticity isn't so much about, oh, I'm going to tell you my truth today. It's about really being able to feel what's right and true in any given moment. And some days that's shutting everybody out. And some days it's letting everybody in, and it's going to fluctuate and shift just like the weather. And being able to honor what you need in any given moment so that you can continue to take care of yourself, fill your cup, so to speak, allow yourself to receive the abundance and joy and all of the things that are out there. Because once you allow your cup and your needs to be filled, then you can actually give more of them out. And I know people say, oh, yes, put your oxygen mask on first, fill your cup before da 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 da. But the thing is most people are trying to fill holes with other people, with things outside of themselves. And when you get to a place, and this is some advanced level shit, when you get to a place where you can be like, okay, I'm going to shut the door, I'm going to sit and fill my own cup. And when you do that, when you can do that, because you're not running around trying to fix this, stop this fire, do this, do that, take care of this person, da da da, all of that, then what you have to give is received in such a different way. And you, at that place, you attract people that, and careers that are in that same place. Because if we're trying to fill up our holes and make ourselves feel better one way or another, and trying to prevent all of this stuff, we're going to find the opposite match that fills those holes. And it's going to be contentious on some level, because now you've got people like taking from each other. People don't do this consciously,
No.
But I mean, some people do, but
Yes. Then
for the most part, people aren't doing this on purpose. They want to feel validated because they feel not good enough. And that's the number one saboteur in everybody's life. And why they're not receiving all the things that they truly deserve, because as you said, you are so much more than a mother, you are so much more than an entrepreneur, you are so much more than a woman. You are, and everybody is, a piece of everything. And when we realize we actually can access that and move from that place, that's how we become even more successful as fuck.
agreed, agreed. And when you were saying that, you know what I was imagining was, well, I've never been there, but Yellowstone, right? Like you are this piece, like you are this amazing thing all by yourself, right?
Mhm.
You're also this piece of this like spectacular view, of life, this spectacular, um, just amazing view of things. But then, even on a greater scale, like you're part of this planet, this universe, this whole thing
Right.
that's just happening. But it all comes down to like, what is your place in that? And we get so caught up in this little tiny bubble that we forget that we're miraculous as part of this big whole too. We don't need to
Yeah.
get lost. We can stay and be happy with our piece in that. But it also is saying like your very existence is amazing. Like we like it. And if you take yourself out of that equation, the ecosystem doesn't function correctly. Um, so we have to avoid taking ourselves out of the equation, literally, figuratively, spiritually, emotionally. We have to do what's right for ourselves. So don't take yourself out of your own equation,
Mhm.
and that is something that I think we get so overwhelmed that we forget, and we do. And so um I could talk to you for literally forever, because I don't know, I think a lot of the work that I do is especially with baby entrepreneurs, or people that are finding themselves in this scary situation. And I love that you're doing that with essentially, I mean, really anyone who's reinventing themselves from a career standpoint is like a baby entrepreneur, because you're putting yourself out there,
Right.
and you do have to overcome quite a bit mentally, and assess your um, badassery, truly.
Well, and the thing that really, like, with entrepreneurs and people reinventing themselves in career or anything really, when you when you're changing careers, you're going into something different and you can't bank on your experience. So you actually have to sell yourself.
Yes.
And selling yourself means confronting all your shit. As an entrepreneur, you will face everything, every one of your limitations,
Oh
every
my
one of
God.
your issues that has ever caused a thing in your life, because now it's all on you, especially if you're a solopreneur. And
Yes.
then if you take it to another level, like now you're not selling somebody else's product, but you're selling yourself. It's the same thing when you're doing a job change or a career change, where you have skills that translate, but maybe you don't quite understand how, and you don't necessarily have the confidence to be like, well, I did this thing in IT, and that's why I'm a perfect person to be in, uh, I don't even know,
Yeah.
in designing childcare systems. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so trying to really understand what it is that you bring to the table and know it deep within you, because we go to college, we bank on, oh, my degree will tell them that I is going to be the thing that's going to get me the job. And then, oh, I mean, I can't tell you how many people have gone back to get their like MBAs or some master's degree, and it's just so they can have credibility. And everything they learned didn't actually help them do anything in their job, but it gave them the confidence to
Right.
say, oh, I have this. And so when you have the confidence to actually know that you can sell yourself without a freaking degree, without this credibility of you've done it before, when you feel it, when you know and have that confidence within yourself, other people feel it too. It's
Yes.
when you doubt yourself that you will not sell your product if you're an entrepreneur, sell your service, whatever it might be. When you fully know that you are worth it, that you are valuable, and even if you don't know how to do something, you can figure it out without beating yourself up and going into a spiral where you don't get out of bed for a week, then anybody's lucky to have you.
Agreed. 100%. As somebody on both sides, you know, as somebody who on multiple sides, because I have been that person, going into an interview for something that I'm only like on a tangent, like on a whim and a prayer, but somehow I made it to the interview. And I always tell people I give good interview, like, um, but then I've also been the person, my background is healthcare administration. So I've done the hiring of people, and like so many times I have hired the person with the confidence over the skills, like
Mhm.
100%. Like if you come in and you are a badass and you're like, I don't fucking know any of this, but let me tell you what I have done, why I think it's related, why I applied, and why I'm the only person you need to talk to about this job, 100% I'm picking you.
Yeah.
And then also, like, we do virtual assistant matchmaking as my other business. And so like I am the one selling these virtual assistants to my clients, and I can say that if I find somebody who has the base skills, like the base skills, but the confidence, then I'm going to go to bat for that person, and I'm going to say like, this is why this person, because I know that they're going to go into the interview and say like, I know exactly what you need. And I don't know the like logistics, but I got this, like 100%.
So let me ask you this, and I think this is just a valuable thing. What lets you know that somebody has the confidence? What lets you know in those situations that it's authentic confidence and not this putting on airs, trying to be, I mean, it's like the swarmy salesperson, right?
Oh
Nobody
yeah.
wants to be the swarmy salesperson. And so that's what so many people without the confidence feel like
Yes.
if they try to push themselves too forward, try to go to bat for themselves. What is it? How do you distinguish the difference?
So part of it is a gut thing. And I think it's not just special to me. Like I think
Yeah.
people can feel it. Like just if you actually are confident within, other people will resonate with that energy. They'll feel it. But then part of it too is oh, what so I was a salesperson for a little bit, and they would talk about commission breath. So, like, it was like that person is breathing on you, and you can tell that what they're saying is to get a commission. Like, and so it's the way that you hold yourself, it's the way that you come in. It's this, it's like the nonverbal plus what you're saying. I think that authentic confidence comes with a relaxed demeanor. So it's like the internal relaxed demeanor and this external like air of like, like my favorite thing to say is like, that's an awesome question. I don't actually know like right off the top of my head, but let me find out for you. Or this is how I would find out for you. is I would go through these steps, and I always tell people, like, I am a master at Googling. I've got this. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have a master's degree. Not really, but like I have an imaginary master's degree in Googling shit and YouTubing things. So if you can say that with confidence, instead of saying like, oh, actually I haven't, to be honest, I haven't worked with that before. That answer versus, even though that's true and honest, and maybe they're saying it authentically and with the confidence that they have, somebody going, that's awesome. That's such a good point. Off the top of my head, I don't like off the top of my head, it sounds similar to this, but I'm not 100% positive. But you know what? I know what I am 100% positive about is I could find out for you. Like,
Yeah.
literally give me an hour. I got this. You know what I mean? And I know that not everybody is going to be able to come to the table with that. That's something that through a lot of insecurity, I have found the scripted language that I can say that overcomes, that like tricks my body into saying, like, you do actually got this. Like,
Right.
like says, like jolts me into that. But yeah, that's what I would say is like just that overall demeanor.
And one of the things that is so key that people don't realize when they're in an interview or at a networking event and someone asks them a question that they don't know, it's what happens in your body, like the emotional sensation, because people feel that. So if someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to and you feel like that, immediately people aren't even aware that they pick up on that. And so, or you're like, you have this need to like, oh, I have to really show you, so you're overcompensating and all of that stuff. The thing is, that shit works sometimes, but it works with people that are operating at that same level. So when you're faking it till you make it, you're going to be around a lot of other people that are faking it till they make it,
100%.
because you don't know how to feel the difference, how to read the difference. But when you're talking about getting a job that's going to really fulfill you, stepping into entrepreneurship in a way that's going to fulfill you, you've got to be able to not have those emotional like hiccups, because whoever the people that have what you want, they don't do that.
Right.
And they see it once you've moved past it, and once you no longer do that, it's so obvious when people are there. And then those people are like, this person's not in alignment for me. This is not the right fit. And that's okay. You'll find whatever fit is the right fit for you to potentially learn the things to overcome those hiccups. Or, you'll watch a podcast or listen to a podcast,
Yeah. Oh,
and
the wolf.
somebody will be like, oh, that's the thing I need. That's the person I need to work with to help me get over that place. So I can walk into an interview. I can randomly meet somebody. I mean, hell, I've signed clients I've met at the Verizon store just based on just a random conversation, because it's just easy. And when you're operating from that place of confidence, that's how you make opportunity happen. That's how opportunity just starts to come to you. Like, you're pissed off that your phone isn't working, you go to the
Yes.
Verizon store and you end up making a bunch of money because you signed a client. Like,
Yes. I
you know,
think what it boils down to is, do you trust yourself?
yeah.
Do you trust yourself? Because if you don't, when someone asks you something that you don't know and you react, it's because you don't trust that you could deliver the answer or the service or whatever. And then they don't trust you, because why should they trust you with their money
If you don't trust
if
yourself.
you don't trust yourself? And
Right.
so it's doing that work to say, I trust that even if I don't know the exact thing that I need to be able to deliver, I trust that I will know, or I will bring in the people, or I will arm myself with the information, resources, and all of those things. I know my worth. I know my skills. I know what I can deliver and how I can help people. And you can project that when you can't project the confidence of the actual skills.
Right. Well, and you also, the key you said right there is trusting yourself. And a lot of people have had this messaging in their head like, oh, honey, you're never going to make money at that. Just go get your college degree. Just go do this. You need to have something to fall back on. So if you hear that over and over in your childhood, in your life, if people tell you, oh, well, you can't make a career out of that, and you begin to, first of all, think that the people around you don't believe in you, they don't think that you can make it. And when you're young and you're super impressionable, when you get that messaging, oh, you could always fall back on this, get a degree, make sure you can fall back on this. When the people around you that are supposed to support you and love you make you feel like you can't do it, they don't believe in you, it makes you start to doubt yourself. And now, of course, it's up to you and your responsibility to learn to trust yourself and to believe in yourself. And all the outside voices don't matter, but let's face it, when we're little and we're growing up and you get those messaging and you hear those voices in your head, you second guess yourself. And those are the moments where you choose to not go after that thing that you really want, not go after the thing that will give you fulfillment, because somewhere deep inside, you believe that you can't do it. And whether that's from the messaging, or maybe it's because you failed and you got punished. And so there's unconsciously this deep fear that terrible things will happen if you don't do it, or if you do it wrong. Like, how many perfectionists out there were like, oh my God, if I do this wrong, the whole world's like gonna end. And obviously that's not true, but it's how it feels inside. And when you're operating with that kind of stress, you're not creating anything productive and beautiful. You're not stepping into fulfillment and moving towards what you really want, because you're too busy trying to prevent maybe people talking about you or not liking you or whatever bullshit stuff you have in the way of your true happiness.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so, so, so true. And I think I talk about that in the book too. Like, um, I think about even people, even young people who are in college and who agonize over changing their major. Who the fuck cares? Really, who the fuck cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Or you're gonna job hop. I mean, I think about how much I agonized over job hopping. Who the fuck cares? The thing is, if you can explain it, and I will, like, I've gone into interviews and I'm like, they'll say something about like, oh, I see you were only here for 1 year. Yes, let me tell you about that. This is the journey that I went through. This is my professional journey. And this is what I learned during that year. And what I learned was X, Y, and Z. And it was amazing because it led into this opportunity of this other thing. And it's like, if you have the confidence to say, this is not serving me, and this other thing is an opportunity to try something new, then it none of it matters. None of it. It's just this internal journey. It's this internal journey of growth and expansion. That is what matters, because if you honor that, if you know what is true for you, if you know what you're striving for in terms of your internal values, then all of it is explainable in a very real and authentic way. And people will respond to that because you are speaking your truth. And that's the bottom line.
And it doesn't matter if they don't respond to it.
Right, that too.
That's the important thing. Like, if somebody doesn't hire you, or you don't get the date or the second date or the this or the that or whatever it is, if you get rejected, it's not about you. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. All it means is it's not the right fit. How many people, how many times in your life, everybody, think about this for a moment, has somebody really been into you? And maybe they really liked you. Maybe you weren't even aware, but you were like, I just don't like that person in a romantic way. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the person, it just doesn't feel right. And I know for me, I had, some really nice boys like me when I was growing up, and I did not like the nice boys because I didn't believe that I was worth it. I didn't believe that I was worthy of being treated well because my experience of love my whole life was rejection, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. You want can you imagine what kind of jobs I had? Same thing. Push, pull, push, pull. I'll do everything for you. I'll do everything for you. People please like a motherfucker. I will give up all of my free time. I will bend over backwards for you. And I will not get appreciated. I will not get what I want out of this thing. I will not feel loved in my job or outside of my job. So these patterns that we have in love, they show up in work, they show up in money. And when you get through that stuff and you don't need it from the outside, when you have it from the inside, those jobs, they're not going to want you. And
Right.
it's a great thing. You're going to get a match for what you've probably had already in your life, unless you do the change, unless you shift. And even if you get that really great job that's everything you imagine, if you're still freaking out about whether they're going to accept you or if they're going to appreciate you or you're going to get a raise when the time is you've paid your dues, if you're freaking out about that the whole time, you're not showing up as your best self. You're not giving them what they hired you for. And so eventually it'll probably become contentious.
Yeah. Uh, spot on. Like spot on. I can't even tell you the amount of examples I've seen in my life and in other people's lives. And I think that's the bottom line, is just coming back down to healing internally so that we can show up and draw in the things that we deserve. And
Yeah.
so, um, tell me a little bit about, I love to ask this question because I feel like it brings, and I know you love to ask this question too, but it brings a little flavor to people understanding who you are. But what are the things, or what is the best piece of advice that somebody has given you that has stuck with you and you've, carried through your life?
So this wouldn't necessarily be a piece of advice, which the advice would follow the quote. So Tony Robbins has this quote that says, people change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. And that's what we do as people. We wait until things are so bad that we can't take it anymore, or life completely destroys us, and then we have to change. So we wait till there's no other choice, really. So the advice I would give to anybody is don't wait that long to make the shifts you want to see in your life. You're not going to get what you want by doing the same thing you've been doing over and over and over again. You've got to be the person to shift and make a change. So don't wait until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change.
I love that. tell us how we can find you, what's going on in the coming months for you, what platform you like to hang out on, and of course we'll be linking all of these in the show notes. But share with us a little bit about where you are on a consistent basis.
I am, of course, on all the social medias. My podcast goes live to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. And of course, it's on all the major podcast channels. It's called Be the Wolf, Be Who You Were Born to Be. And I interview people like you who are on their career path journey of being who they were born to be and helping make this world a better place. I have a free career guide for you all if you're looking to switch careers. This is a must read for anybody that's looking to make a change. So if you are driving, do not do this right now. But otherwise, pull out your browser, pull out your phone, and type in elevatefreegift.com. And you can access my free career change guide.
Love it.
And that'll get you on my mailing list and allow you to have more access to me. I respond to emails directly if you reply. So, yeah, you can find me again on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all the places. I'm on all the places.
All the places.
But yeah, if you are really looking to do a career shift, like start there. That's a great place to start, is with the career guide. And again, that's elevatefreegift.com.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I love these conversations. We'll probably have a part 2 at some point because I just can't get enough of you.
Yay!
I love it.
I'm
I
in.
love it. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. If you are joining us on the replay, put #replay. Any questions that you have about career change, about defining your success or your unconventional success journey, we want to hear from you. Grab that free gift. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Successful as Fuck. We will be back next time. And we just thank you for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.